All right, thank you so much, Jason. And a quick wrap up to catch a lot of you up to speed. The mayor just appeared in court just minutes ago. She pleaded guilty to theft over $10,000. She did get a plea deal with that, 3 years probation, and she has to pay back $11,000 in restitution.
All right, we continue our live team coverage of the mayor's expected resignation. Let's check in with News Channel 5's Dan Kennedy. He is also outside City Hall. Good morning, Dan.
Hey, good morning to you both. We've actually moved inside and we are awaiting the news conference to begin in about 12 minutes. Right now, we anticipate the mayor is inside City Hall going over some last minute things as we expect that resignation to come down in about 12 minutes. She will walk through this door, the same door she walked through about 5 weeks ago tomorrow when she asked for the city's forgiveness amid the mayor's affair, amid admitting the affair. Then she will take the podium, same podium that she took 5 weeks ago, although it will be a bit of a different outcome this morning. And I just took this photo. I wanted to give you an idea of the view the mayor will be looking at when she announces her resignation of office about 5 weeks after News Channel 5's Investigates Phil Williams first uncovered the affair. So looking out into a sea of journalists that will be streamed live here on News Channel 5. It was just about 30 minutes ago when Mayor Megan Barry pleaded guilty to theft of property, a felony. She has been ordered to pay restitution of $11,000 back to the city, and it comes with a 3-year probation sentence. So she will then make her way across the street. Criminal court, where she pleaded guilty just about 30 minutes ago, is right across James Robertson Parkway from where we stand now. So it's a quick drive or a walk over to City Hall, where she is walking through these doorways for the last time as mayor. And we expect that news conference again to begin in about 10 minutes. And all eyes are on that door where Mayor Megan Barry should be here very shortly. Reporting live, Dan Kennedy, News Channel 5.
All right, Dan, thank you. And of course, the mayor has been fighting for her political career for 5 weeks now. And if she does tender her resignation this morning, again, we expect that within the next 10 minutes at 10 o'clock for her to make that announcement. A lot of folks are wondering what's next for Nashville. This is a sad day for Nashville. We will be making a transition, it appears. Phil, so what is next?
Well, next is Vice Mayor David Briley will be sworn in. I had some conversations with people close to him this morning on the way into the station. It's not clear, or at least it wasn't clear in the last 30 minutes exactly what time David Briley will. And my questions were focused on that. And she understood those were legitimate questions that she had to answer.
Right. Got a lot more questions for you, Phil, but right now we want to go back out to the scene. I understand that Dan Kennedy is standing by. Dan, what's the mood like there?
No, I'm here.
I tell you what, it was a somber one, standing back in the gallery, just feet away from the mayor as she took this podium and officially announced. We have been hearing for a couple hours now that she would resign as mayor of the city of Nashville. I tell you, it's somber because behind me, directly behind me, stood a couple staff members of hers. They were fighting back tears. In fact, some weren't even fighting them at all. You could. It was tough to make out what the mayor was saying through hearing the sniffles. And some of the crying, the audible sobbing from some staff members who chose to come into what is a very tiny room holding this news conference so they could hear it directly from their own boss that she would be stepping down today as mayor of Nashville. She walked through this door just a couple minutes after 10 o'clock, the scheduled 10 o'clock news conference, and walked a couple feet up to the podium where she made that announcement. This is the same spot where 5 weeks ago tomorrow, she stood before a number of journalists and asked for Nashville's forgiveness, where she came clean to the affair, but also said she didn't misuse taxpayer dollars. And to recap what happened about an hour ago at criminal court, the mayor has pleaded guilty to theft of property. She will pay $11,000 in restitution to the city and will be on a 3-year probation, and of course has to also give up her title as mayor of Nashville. Now we'll send it back to you in the studio.
All right, Dan, thanks so much. And Dan mentioned a little bit about what led up to this announcement. Obviously, this has been building for about 5 weeks now. Our chief investigative reporter, Phil Williams, joins us. And Phil, how long? We know some key things happen. The Tennessee
And what is best for constituents of this great city and state.
I am fully confident in David Briley's ability to lead in this time of transition. Of course, we're monitoring different Twitter accounts and watching for emails and statements because we're sure that we're going to get a number of those from different leaders throughout the day.
Exactly. Now let's go out to Dan Kennedy, who is at City Hall. Dan.
And good morning to you both. We have moved outside of the news conference room, which is a couple feet off to my right, and now we are right outside the glass doors that separate us from Mayor Megan Barry's office. This is right inside City Hall that sits at Public Square Park, and inside here I can tell you there sits a secretary. You have to get through the secretary to get to the mayor, and that secretary all morning long since we showed up at about 8:30 this morning has been on the phone. The phone's ringing off the hook here at City Hall, and the mayor, as far as we know, is still in her office behind us after just about 40 minutes ago standing before a room packed of journalists with about 30 or so journalists inside that room with cameras, and she officially announced her resignation. Now, also inside that room, and what you may not have known at home, is that behind those cameras stood I would estimate about a dozen or so staffers, what appeared at least to be staffers of Mayor Megan Barry. And they were sniffling, they were crying, audibly sobbing, some of them, as the mayor read aloud her statement, a statement which, by the way, she has now emailed out to all city employees and that I have tweeted out as well. NC5 Dan Kennedy, just to give you a brevity of it all, she thanks her supporters and what has been what she calls a tough 5 weeks, and ends by saying, "I love you, Nashville," and how she looks forward to watching the city's growth now on the sidelines and as a private citizen. Also, just a few minutes ago, we're learning of some important details of what's going on across the street at the courthouse, the same criminal courthouse where the mayor at 9:30 this morning pleaded guilty to theft of property over $10,000, which is a felony. She was ordered to pay back $11,000 in restitution. Now we have learned that her former bodyguard, former sergeant with the Metro Police Department, Rob Forrest, is also in criminal court. And I'll send it back to you in the studio with details of what exactly has happened now with the former sergeant, Rob Forrest, and Jason Lamb also standing by. And Jason, what I've just heard is that Sergeant Forrest pleaded guilty to theft of property, and he is going to have to pay back $45,000 in restitution.
That is right, and we are covering some additional details from outside of City Hall. And as a matter of fact, David Rabin
Booked.
And I understand we have video of that. Let's take a look. This is outside of the area where she's being booked. I believe she's still inside at this point, and we'll be getting maybe a look at her as she comes out. That's her security, from what I understand. This has got to be such a horrible day for her.
Yeah, you think about it, just how far she has fallen from being the mayor of an city, a very popular mayor, to walking into a courtroom today and pleading guilty to a Class C felony, resigning as the mayor, resigning from a position that she had long sought, and now behind these walls, like an ordinary criminal, being fingerprinted and having her mugshot taken, and walking out as a convicted felon.
It's just unbelievable almost at this point. It's like a really bad story.
Let's go to News Channel 5's Dan Kennedy, who has a little bit more perspective on this booking process. Dan, what do you know?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what Phil was able to talk about there and kind of walk you through what the mayor's morning has been like, and really a morning that consists of traveling between 3 city blocks. It started here at the courthouse this morning. Inside here at the Birch Building is where she stood before a judge and pleaded guilty to theft of property over $10,000. And the judge gave her 3 years probation, but also ordered her to pay $11,000 in restitution and unlawful expenditures. And then former Sergeant Rob Forrest also stood before a judge, also pleading guilty to theft of property over $10,000. He will have to pay back $45,000 worth of restitution for salary or overtime that he essentially should not have been getting, according to the judge. After the mayor was done here at the courthouse, she went about 200 yards up towards City Hall, and that is where she stood before the media, before some of her staffers, hours and announced that she would be stepping down today as mayor of Nashville. That was at 10 o'clock this morning. So 9:30 inside the courthouse, 10 o'clock before the news media, and now here we are at about 11:20. Again, all this happening very fast in the last 2 hours. She is now another block towards the south or towards the north of the city, and she is now inside booking. And there's a lot of construction going on in this area, so the normal booking area is now essentially a trailer, a makeshift trailer, and that is where the mayor now goes before a magistrate judge. It's where she will be fingerprinted. It's where she will get her mugshot taken, and then her former police bodyguard, former sergeant of Metro Nashville with the Metro Nashville Police Department, Rob Forrest, will go through that same process. He followed the mayor here at the Birch Building today, also going before a judge, pleading guilty to the same charge, but having a bit of a different outcome. Again, for both of them, this charge, a felony, can be expunged from their record after completing 3 years probation and also paying back restitution. So that's a little look at what the mayor's morning has been like, and really all of this happening within less than the past 2 hours. Back to you.
All right, thanks so much, Dan. We're going to check back in with Phil, who has more information.
Yeah, well, we now have the guilty plea that was entered by Sergeant Rob Forrest. And again, as we've reported earlier, he pleaded guilty to a Class C felony. He will get 3 years of supervised probation and be eligible to apply for judicial diversion to have it expunged from his record in 3 years. One interesting little note that I've never seen this before, but one of the clauses in the plea agreement is that once Mr. Forrest is on unsupervised probation, taken on Forrest's police-issued smartphone. The pics were snapped when the two were on a trip to Washington and while Forrest was on the clock. Barry's reaction?
So I'm furious, as you might imagine today, when I learned that there might be photos of me. If they exist, they were taken without my knowledge, they were taken without my permission, and they were taken without my consent.
Then News Channel 5 Investigates discovered security video showing the bodyguard driving the mayor into Nashville's historic city cemetery in the early mornings for quiet time alone. Her spokesperson responded that she, quote, finds it to be a peaceful place to start her day. Still, as detractors insisted it was time for her to go, Barry tried to carry on with business as usual, insisting she still had a job to do.
You know, I've been very forthcoming with everything, and I think that the citizens of Davidson County continue to want us to get up every day and go to work, and I have a great team. We have great Metro employees who get up every day and make sure that this city runs, and I'm going to continue to lead that.
Phil Williams, News Channel 5 Investigates.
Kind of sums it up.
So it ends today with her resignation and David Briley becoming the next mayor, which we understand will happen later this afternoon.
Yes.
So, let's go
here
live.
she goes. She's coming out of booking. Jason Lamb is there.
All right, look, we have Mayor Barry coming out right now to her car, her white SUV, loading into it right now. This is happening live right outside the booking facility of Metro Police.
Where are they going to pull out?
They're going to pull here. Guys.
Just make sure you got them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, obviously very,
So
very
she's
quickly.
being let out in this white
kind of
Tahoe. She's being
Got
let out in
into
this
her
white Tahoe
SUV.
right now. She's being let out in this white Tahoe as she's coming out here.
And tinted windows
She's not,
as well.
there she is, going away, walking away, getting driven away here from that Tahoe. She just got booked, her mugshot released, and there it is, live on News Channel 5. The mayor being transported away, and we are still awaiting what is across the street right here at this trailer where we're told Sergeant Forrest is also being booked. We're going to keep an eye on that, but we wanted to bring that to you live as it happened. The mayor being taken away, driven away in that white SUV after being booked downtown here, guys.
All right. Thank you so much, Jason.
And that process took, I guess, less than an hour, we could say, guys.
Well, about an hour.
About an hour.
About an hour.
Yeah, about an hour.
Yeah.
We got the mug shot sent in and just kind of went through the procedural steps that
Fingerprints, mugshot, checking in with the probation officer
Right.
to begin that process, although it's going to be unsupervised probation. So again, certainly she's fallen a long way.
Also outside the booking area, our Dan Kennedy. And Dan, what's going on from where you are?
Hey, yes, good afternoon to you both. As you just saw, Mayor Megan Barry has left the booking procedure in what we estimate to be about an hour or so. And happening right now inside these doors is where it's our understanding, Sergeant Rob Forrest currently awaits. Now, inside this facility, it's a makeshift trailer because of all the construction that's going on right now, working to build a new jail. But I can tell you that inside these doors, there's a temporary magistrate office, and this is also where they basically take inmates in the overnight hours where they can see a magistrate judge, get the bond hearing, and then they have to cross the street and go physically walk across the street most times, or be driven in via a car, a police escort, as is the case over here to the right ear screen. And so you have two options really, to physically walk across the street or to be taken in the back of a police car here, where you are then booked with your fingerprints, you get your mugshot taken. And that is exactly what just happened with the mayor. She was led away into her white SUV. She still had several members of her security detail. Keep in mind, the resignation not effective until a little later this evening, and then the white SUV took off. We don't know exactly where she's going. Could she be going home, back to City Hall for some unfinished business and to wrap up the day? That remains to be seen, but we have crews scattered throughout the city. And now we await the former Sergeant Rob Forrest, who is expected to walk out those doors and cross the street at some time. This is going to be our first opportunity to ask Mr. Forrest any questions regarding this affair and the allegations of improper use of taxpayer money. But keep in mind, he has now pleaded guilty to that Class C felony, a theft over $10,000, and will have to pay restitution of $45,000 for money that was not used properly while he was protecting the mayor. In other words, improper use of overtime or his salary. In fact, over here right now, come over here. This is Mr. Forrest crossing the street right now, and we're going to try and get a word in with Mr. Forrest.
Mr. Forrest, do you have any comment?
Taxpayer money was abused.
Mr. Forrest, what do you say to the citizens of Nashville? A quick exit from the former Sergeant of Metro Nashville Police, Rob Forrest, who resigned effective January and took retirement. No questions were answered from Mr. Forrest. That was our first opportunity to ask him anything, and we wanted to give him the opportunity to address the allegations and certainly to address what happened in court this morning with him pleading guilty to a Class C felony. He chose not to take that opportunity. Instead, with a stoic look on his face, crossed the street fairly fast and then enter into the booking facility, where he will undergo what exactly Mayor Barry just did as well. Fingerprinting, booking, getting that mugshot, which will then be publicly released and which we can then release to you as well. Back to you in the studio.
Wow, Dan, great work from you and our photographers there. Obviously, very quick walk across the street as we saw there for Sergeant Rob Forrest. But this is a very fluid situation. We got a lot going on.
How ironic is it that at one point he might have been walking somebody over with the perp walk, and now it's him.
Yeah.
He's dealing with people that he's worked with all of his life, and he's not in a good position.
And if you are just joining us, obviously the big story is Mayor Barry has pled guilty to theft of property and has resigned from office this afternoon. That'll be official. She has to pay $11,000. Sergeant Forrest, though, $45,000.
$45,000. So we don't know exactly how the DA's office came up with that figure, but
and it was a big distraction for a lot of people.
And I heard from a viewer just a few minutes ago saying that this is outrageous, that her personal life, was no one's business. But again, we keep coming back to she pleaded guilty today to theft of taxpayer money.
Yeah, you can't be arrested for having an extramarital affair.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, Phil, thank you. Great work. We appreciate it. Dan Kennedy outside. Actually, we had some video again. Dan was there.
There he is.
You saw a lot of the activity. It's been really busy the last half hour where you are, Dan.
Yeah, we're standing outside the bonding office down here on First Avenue and downtown, and this is a temporary location. It's just a trailer, but inside here, a whole lot of important things happen. It's where a lot of criminals get their first chance to appear before a magistrate judge. It's where they have their bond set, and this is the door where Sergeant Rob Forrest just about 30 minutes ago walked out, crossed the street, and we were allowed to ask him some questions before he went inside to get his fingerprints and to get his mugshot to complete the booking process. Former Sergeant Forrest, though, chose not to answer any of our questions. Again, this is no longer just about an affair, but about him and former Mayor Barry pleading guilty to a Class C felony this morning, theft of taxpayer dollars. So we wanted to give him the opportunity. This would have been his first chance to answer to that charge. He chose not to comment at all. In fact, he kept silent, not even saying no comment. That same walk is one that Mayor Barry made earlier this morning, and we have some video of that around 11 o'clock, in fact, just 1 hour after she announced to the city of Nashville, to a room full of journalists and staff members, that she would be stepping down as mayor effective 5 o'clock today. She was then seen here at the bonding office going through the same process that former Sergeant Rob Forrest was undergoing. She got her fingerprints, she got her mugshot made, that mugshot which you have seen many times now, and then she was officially released. It was a process that for the mayor took about an hour and 15 minutes. We expect about the same for Mr. Forrest, and at which point he will then be released from those gates. He will walk outside, presumably to a nearby parking lot right across the street, where he will either then get in his own personal vehicle or perhaps his attorney's vehicle, and then his 3-year probationary period begins, as does the mayor's as well, after both pled guilty this morning to that Class C felony and both ordered to pay restitution. Again, former Sergeant Rob Forrest was a 31-year veteran of the Metro Nashville Police Department, so this is a process that he is very familiar with, though one this morning he finds himself on the other side of. Now I send it just down the street to my colleague Jason Lamb for some more continued coverage. Jason.
That's right, Dan. Thank you. And I wanted to bring in a little bit of perspective with